This is the most precious and beautiful gift that human beings have been given.
Yes.
To be able to have a relationship and connection with God in this life.
Personally, I find it very odd that scientists, after knowing and observing and seeing the perfection of this universe,
Absolutely.
so you've got the seas and the rivers and the ocean and the beauty and the fish. So, since we're starting our first podcast today, I was thinking, and this is going to be about life in general and the different aspects of life. So it makes sense to start it with the beginning of life itself.
Okay.
How was life created?
Okay.
Okay, and so we can go as far back as possible. So we can go back to the creation of the universe, right?
Okay.
Because whether it is scientific or religious, there's always been a very there are avid discussions on the beginning of the universe and the creation of life.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the creation of the universe, predominantly believed fact is about the Big Bang theory, right?
Yes.
And interestingly, in the Quran, there's something very similar. It is similar, but it is different, right? Because in terms of the Big Bang theory, they're talking about the universe starts from nothing.
Okay.
But when you look at what the Quran says, yes, it says it started with sort of a Big Bang, but it says the heavens and the earth, or the entire universe itself, they were sort of merged,
Okay.
and Allah split them. Okay. Now we can go into a scientific discussion in terms of whether it was actually the heavens and the world as we know it today, or whether it was just the original particles of the heavens and the earth, and they split and expanded into whatever. But there's a lot of already theories and scientific research out there.
Yes.
It's not.
But the
Yeah.
concept is the same, that it's starting from a singular.
I think it's called singularity.
Singularity, yes, of the earth and the heavens, or whatever there is.
That's
And
it.
it's
Yes.
splitting. So the concept is basically the same.
Exactly. That's a very interesting point, because you're absolutely right. So they talk about singularity, and I'm not a scientist, but from what I understand, when they talk about singularity, they're talking about almost beginning everything out of nothing.
Okay.
And so that was probably a particle.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, when we look at the verse of the Quran, it says that the heavens and earth were joined together.
Yes.
Right? So it could be in that format, or it could be in a slightly different format, but it is slightly different.
Okay.
And when you go back to even sort of before singularity, yeah, that is where they have to come up with theories in terms of this. They say it started out of nothing. And that's actually very interesting from a scientific perspective. There's another video, and I'll just share a link to that we've done before. It's interesting in the sense that the scientists, typically a lot of them, they say we don't believe in God.
Yes.
But all of the research, at the end of that, they come and say this entire universe was created out of nothing. Okay.
Yes.
So that sort of looks and feels like magic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. To say that the universe came from nothing is completely illogical. Some people have mentioned that it came from nothing. Just an understanding of after what happened, after the initial singularity. So they're not addressing the idea of from where did it come about. They're only addressing the fact that it was once a singular entity and then it expanded.
But I would disagree with you from a theological perspective.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as a believer in God, in Allah,
Yes.
okay, we believe He can do anything.
Okay.
Right. So this is not from a scientific perspective. This is purely from a religious or a theological perspective. And there's a verse in the Quran which says, whenever Allah wants to do something, He just says, that it should be, and it appears, right, or it happens. So I would be inclined to say, I see absolutely no issues in terms of God just said, let there
Okay, so you're saying basically the concept is the same, that it did come from nothing, but the only difference is that in one instance there is God instruct or creating the universe from nothing, and in the other instance, there is no God and the universe is still coming from nothing.
Yes and no, not exactly. So what I'm saying is the following. So I'm saying if we believe what the scientists say, that this universe came out of nothing,
Okay.
then as an outsider, you know, looking into the research and into what the scientists are saying, I would say, hang on, that sounds to me like magic or sounds to me like God. So you're saying the entire universe was created out of nothing, okay? And they've tried to explain it, but scientifically it gets very, very messy. That because then they go back to particles, and like I said, there is a short video which has gone into this research. So yes, when you try to talk about it scientifically, then I agree with you. It is absurd and it is illogical. Yes, that it's created out of nothing. So there I would agree with you.
Yes.
But the reason the believers will sort of smile at what the scientists are saying is, if we were to believe what they're trying to tell us, it came out of nothing, they're actually almost talking about God without accepting it or without sort of declaring it.
Yeah, that's
Right?
very interesting.
So because the definition of God is he can just he says to anything be, and it happens.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And to comprehend how Allah can create or God can create a universe without any physical materials already existing is incomprehensible for a human being. So it is in the realm of something that we cannot fully comprehend or understand.
Yes, having said that, when we look at what Allah has mentioned in the Quran in terms of the beginnings of the universe, he doesn't say it came out of nothing. Okay, there may have been a point in the past where there was nothing. But the Quran itself talks about the fact that that the heavens and the earth were sort of glued together, or maybe they were a singularity, or they were together in some format. And then Allah split them. So that's the difference. So that's what I'm saying. The definition of the Big Bang in the Quran, although it's very similar, but it is different.
Okay.
Right? So the beginnings of the Big Bang are different in the Quran
Okay.
to what the scientists tell us.
Okay.
Because the scientists, eventually go back to almost saying it started from nothing.
Okay.
Which, as you said, is illogical. And that's where it gets messy.
Uh-huh.
But Allah doesn't say it started from nothing.
Okay.
Although He can do it, and He does it all the time.
Yes.
So He had probably created the heavens and the earth before that point.
Yes.
Not probably, surely.
Yes.
But when He talks about the creation of the universe,
Yes.
or the earth in the shape that we see today, and the sun and the solar system, and life. So the starting point of that formation was that those two were joined together,
Okay.
and Allah ordered them to be split. But I think that that's enough for from a scientific perspective. But we just wanted to talk about the beginning of life.
Okay.
So anyway, the universe was created, and then the Quran says it took 6 days. That's something very interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it took 6 days for the earth and the universe to stabilize somehow.
Yes.
Correct? Or to see earth in the format that we see it now.
Yes.
I mean, now we can actually go into the space, and we can see our beautiful planet, which looks blue because of the water. So it's a beautiful blue planet full of life.
Yep.
So the Quran explains that all of this happened in 6 days, and there is a division within the 6 days as well. But we're not going there today.
Okay.
And were those 6 days 24 hours? Probably not, because there's another verse in the Quran which says that a day, in the eyes of Allah, is like 1,000 years to you. So that could mean it was 6,000 years.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is where I have a problem with a lot of stuff that I read about in science, and knowing that I'm not a scientist, obviously, I'm not commenting it from a science perspective, but from a believer perspective, I have question marks in terms of when they say it was, I don't know how many billion years, and how many million years while the Earth took to get to the shape that it is now.
Uh-huh.
They could be right, maybe because we have to remember that the creation of time and space is also something that God created.
Yes.
Right? So we define time by how we measure it.
Yes.
Now Allah is defining in the Quran that a day in the eyes of Allah is 1,000 years an hour in the way we experience it.
Okay.
Correct? And so, but maybe at that point in time when time was just maybe those 6 days, I don't know what they were equivalent to. But I'm just saying, I have a bit of a question mark, but I'm not too worried because whatever, obviously, as a believer, we believe that whatever Allah has said is correct, whether we understand it or not.
Yes.
So this is an area that I I hear what the scientists are saying, but I don't always just readily accept that there was an X number of million or billion years.
Okay.
They could be right, they could be wrong. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So then it took 6 days, and then at some point, and then afterwards, there was an interval of time which could be millions of years, because then subsequently Allah talks about the creation of Adam.
Okay.
And we know that when Adam was created,
Yes.
the jinns were already there,
Yes.
right?
And the angels.
And the angels. So this is very interesting because it just sort of goes back to what we were discussing in terms of the time duration of the creation of the universe and how long it took to stabilize, and after that. So Allah talks about the creation of Adam.
Okay.
And now the jinns have already been there for, we don't know, maybe thousands of years, maybe millions of years. We really don't know.
Yes.
But Allah starts narrating the story to us about our creation.
Okay.
And He says in the Quran that He created Adam from His own hands. This is very interesting.
Okay.
And so whenever we talk about the attributes of Allah, there's two camps, as you probably know, within the Muslim scholarship.
Okay.
So there's one camp which says, because Allah, and both of the scholarships base their arguments on the same verse. So there's a defining verse in the Quran which says, Laysa shay. There's nothing like God.
Okay.
So you cannot take something and sort of start comparing it and say, this is like God in terms of,
Absolutely.
So because of that, there's one group of scholars or people who say that, talking about the physical attributes of God is wrong. Because there's nothing like Him, as the Quran says.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay? But there's another group which says, no, hang on. If God says He has hands, He has hands. Now, because there is nothing like Him, so we should never try to visualize or imagine, that His hands are like our hands, for example. We should not do that.
Absolutely.
Because it goes against the verse.
And you can try to think of it, it might not be wise, but you can try to think of it in terms of God who has created matter and the universe and time and space and so on. And this is just my own opinion, so I can be completely wrong, will probably not be restricted by a physical concept of, hands or something like that. Because He is above the creation.
Yeah.
So He's probably outside the dimension of our understanding and comprehension, because we cannot really know anything about how or who Allah is except for what He has told us in the Quran.
No, I completely agree with you, and so that's why this is sort of interesting and sort of slightly funny. That there's these two groups of scholars or Muslims who talk about the attributes of Allah, and they and they've been debating this for hundreds of years.
Yes.
In terms of the physical attributes of Allah. So one is saying because of His because of the infinite attributes of Allah, it is just even wrong to talk about His physical attributes. It is just plain wrong.
Okay.
Which sort of makes sense from a certain perspective. But then the other group says, but hang on, Allah has used these words in the Quran and the hadith, right? So if he used them, he's used. If he says he has a hand, he has a hand. How, we don't know.
Okay.
What type, we don't know, because laysa kamithlihi shay, there's nothing like him.
Yes.
So I find this debate interesting, but after a certain point, it sort of gets boring and pointless.
Yes,
because they're essentially saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm inclined to go towards the opinion where, if God has said something,
Yes.
we should accept it. So, for example,
Absolutely. Yes.
if God says He's all hearing
Yes.
and He sees everything,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
So He used those words. Now, the first group, which says that Allah's attributes cannot be, we should never even talk about them, they're at a loss.
Yes.
Because, how do you explain hearing?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? So Allah talks obviously in our language. Absolutely. And He uses the perfect, His word is perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so like I said, it's this subject to debate is interesting to a certain point, but beyond that, it just sort of gets. So the creation of, we talk about the creation of the universe, broadly speaking, and then so Allah tells us about the creation of Adam.
Okay.
And he created Adam with his own hands. That is where this discussion went off onto a tangent. Yes. And I personally find this verse very fascinating.
Okay.
Because the fact that Allah created everything.
Yes.
Yes, He's the creator.
Yes.
But when He says, "I created Adam with my own hands,"
yes,
I think it gives a certain special significance.
Absolutely.
To the human being.
Yes.
And this is also evident in another verse which says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُم فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Right? And karamna is, we sort of, in a way you can translate it as, He endowed honor. Okay. onto Adam.
Okay.
And so Allah talks about the creation of Adam. And even before the creation of Adam, as we all know, there's a very famous dialogue that happens with, Allah tells the angels. Yes. That He's about to create Adam. Okay. Who is going to be Allah's Khalifa. Okay. On earth. And the Khalifa's translation can be, it's almost like a representative. Okay. And there is a verse in the Quran which sort of explains this. It's reference to the Prophet Dawood. Okay. Right? And Allah says in the Quran, I'll get the exact verse for you, where it says, and we made Dawood the Khalifa so that he would do justice on the earth. Okay? So in this world where we see, thousands and millions of different creatures and insects and birds and animals and so basically the world has been created for us because we have all the facilities that are fine-tuned for us to the easy life. The word you use is I like the word, the fine-tuning that you've used. Yes. Because when we go back to the discussion about the creation of the universe, yes, and that discussion that always happens. Yes. Yes. These terms are used in terms of, how is the universe so finely tuned? Yes. How is this world so finely tuned for life? How is this universe so finely tuned for? No, it's very fascinating because if you look at, there are some animals that sleep for 6 months underneath the snow. Yes, the hibernation. Hibernation. Yeah. But the human beings, they sleep at night and they wake up during the day. Correct. Which is completely in sync with how the Earth is the Earth is revolving around the sun. Right. So this is very interesting. Correct. And of course, all the rest of the things, the animals, the food that we eat, the oxygen that we breathe. Yeah. So you can see the examples of fine tuning in every single thing that helps us survive, or that helps us to not only survive but to flourish on Earth. And on the subject of fine tuning, this is actually quite an interesting subject. Is in Surah Mulk, right? There is a verse which says, where Allah challenges, the human beings to go and look around them and do research, yes, and try to find a flaw
Yes.
in this universe. Now that is very interesting.
Yes.
And this is where personally I find it very odd that scientists, after knowing and observing and seeing the perfection of this universe, which as we're beginning to explore now, is limitless,
Absolutely. Yes.
and still coming back and saying, this just all happened by itself.
No, no, absolutely.
This sounds very odd.
Absolutely.
So you've got the seas and the rivers and the ocean and the beauty and the fish and so many things, and the birds, and as you said, the
Yes.
different sort of they've got their perfect ecosystems.
Yes.
And now we've got fantastic work done by BBC, National Geographic, a lot of different Animal Planet.
Yes.
We can see how beautifully it's all been laid out in a perfect sense.
Absolutely.
And to say that all of this is devolved, and I think sometimes you need to be a little non-scientific to understand things.
Yes.
And this is where I really like what Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer. So when he was addressing an audience at one point, he just picked up a glass of water, just a glass, and he said, will anybody believe that this came to its existence by itself?
Yes.
If it was just something sitting there for millions of years, you can't form a perfect glass.
Yes.
Let alone this, beautiful
Absolutely.
universe.
Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely correct. And the issue with the atheists or the scientists who don't believe in God or try to reject God, despite all of these evidences, I think the reason is not that they do not have enough evidence, or it's not convincing to them that God has created the universe and us and everything. I think the issue is more to do with their hesitance to acknowledge that God is their creator, or to accept that there can be something as right or wrong, or I have to follow God in what He is commanding me to do. So it can be a sign of arrogance rather than of not having enough evidence to support.
No, you are 100% right. It's purely arrogance. I mean, I've been thinking about this and observing this and thinking about it for a while, but I am very convinced at this stage that this is just pure arrogance.
Absolutely.
So yes, it is possible, when a child is growing up or when somebody is learning, you may be at a certain point where you're still figuring things out.
Yes.
And you're not really sure in terms of, what is right and what is wrong. But like the verse in the Quran which says, God has taken it upon Himself to show to every person, right, irrespective of their geography, their race, their knowledge, how educated or uneducated they are, clearly show them that there is God and there is right and there is wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
Because coming back to
no, absolutely, I agree with you, and I think a lot of people have this misconception about religion that it has only to do with following strict rules, and it has only to do with the concept of right and wrong, and to become the best person you have to only be a good person and not be a bad person. I think it has more to do with having the ability to connect with God and to have a relationship with God and to be able to appreciate what He has given you in this life, rather than just looking at it as a set of rules that are, restricting your life to only be allowed to do a certain amount of things. I think it's much more nuanced than that, in the way that human beings are made in such a way that even if they do make mistakes, or even if they do fall in their life in many different areas, they can still turn back to God and still be able to develop a deep relationship with Him.
I think,
What I'm trying to say is the priority is not the good deeds and the bad deeds, but the priority is the relationship with God, which of course has to do with good deeds and bad deeds. But the priority is the relationship with God. From my understanding.
It's interesting you say that, because we were talking about the creation of Adam.
Yes.
Right after he was created, this is exactly what happened. The temptation was there.
Yes.
So that was just, one of the first things that happened when man was created is what you've described in terms of, so there were things which Adam clearly knew were wrong. Yes. He was told by Allah, these are wrong. Yes. Right? But there was a temptation. So human beings, despite their best efforts, will err at times, yes, at different levels. And so in that context, I think what you're saying is it makes a lot of sense that what is incredibly important is for people to go back, for their
Yes.
ability to go back to God.
Yes.
And revert to Him.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
This is the most precious and beautiful gift that human beings have been given.
Yes.
To be able to have a relationship and connection with God in this life.
Yeah. Going back to the creation, so Allah told the angels, and interestingly, from the jinns, the shaitan, he was from the jinns, as it is clearly in the Quran, and he was a very pious and obedient jinn.
Yes.
And he was so pious and obedient that he was sitting amongst the angels.
Yes.
In the audience of God, right? And that is where, when God talked about the creation of Adam, the angels came back and said, because they understood that Allah was about to create a being which would have choice, which would have freedom of choice.
Okay.
And so now the angels had already seen the jinns, because the jinns apparently were fighting with each other, and there was violence and there were all kinds of things. It's obvious, yeah, from the conversation.
Yes.
From the response of the angels. So the angels say to God, why would you create somebody who would fight? They would fight with each other and cause bloodshed and all of these things.
Okay.
And Allah said, I know things that you do not know. Yeah. Of course, we know Allah taught Adam the names of things, which I have never fully understood. I know there's something very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I think I understood some of it despite not knowing the Arabic.
Okay.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. It's that when he's saying, I have created Adam and so on, and then the angels ask him that they will cause bloodshed, and we praise you. Why are you creating someone that is going to cause bloodshed and corruption on earth? And then he says, I know that which you do not know. And then he teaches the names of everything to Adam. So I think he's showing the angels one of the things, or one of the things that he knows about human beings that the angels don't know. It possibly might not be the main reason or purpose for creating Adam, but it just might be showing the angels that there is many things I know about the creation of the human being, and that includes knowing the names of everything.
Can you elaborate more? Because is it a function of memory? Is it a function of understanding things?
So it's something that the human beings have that the angels do not have. And if you just look at the translation, it's saying that Allah taught Adam the names of everything. So that's what the meaning I will take it. On
no, that's fine, but the reason I've never been very clear on this, is because in the subsequent conversation, the angels say, yes, we do not know except what you've told us. Right? So Allah could have taught the names to the angels as well.
Yes.
Right? So that's the place where,
yes,
that's the point.
The difficulty in understanding this concept is that the angels are asking a very specific question.
Yeah.
The question is that these beings are going to cause bloodshed and corruption on earth, while we only praise you.
Correct.
And Allah is saying in reply to that, and
I know what you do not know.
Reply, I know what you do not know.
Correct.
And then it's not necessarily just this is the actual reply.
Yeah.
My understanding.
Correct.
And then Allah taught Adam, if you read the verse, it's saying, and then Allah taught Adam the names of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he asked the angels to tell them the names of of a certain thing, and they were unable to do so. So Allah is just showing them that this, from my understanding, from my limited understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that he's just showing the angels one of the reasons that I know a lot of things about this being that you do not know. And this is one of the reasons that he knows the names and you don't know the names.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, this is like it's not directly answering the question to say that Adam knows the names.
Correct.
What does that have to do with bloodshed and corruption?
Correct.
One of the interpretations someone gave was that these were the names of the people who do not cause bloodshed and corruption.
I'm not sure if that's very convincing because
this is just
that
someone gave.
Yes, because the verse states, if I remember correctly, the verse is
I know that which you do not know.
Well, no, fine. But when he talks about the names, he says the names of all things.
Of all things.
So it's not, it's probably not just the names of a few people.
Absolutely agreed.
So anyway, moving on. As human beings, that's another very interesting aspect is it's not possible to get everything. There are things we have to park. There are things we may not understand.
Okay.
And I think it just makes sense that, you park certain things and move on to things you can understand.
Okay.
And interestingly, the Quran also talks about this. This is one of the basic principles of understanding the Quran, which says in this book there are verses which are very clear, black and white. They're like the essence of this book, right? That's the most important, in terms of following. And there are some other verses which you won't really fully understand what they mean, right?
Okay.
So, and it says, the people who are good in knowledge, they, even if they don't understand, they say we believe.
Yes.
Because we don't understand this, but we believe because God has revealed it.
Absolutely. Yes.
But there are certain people who will always try to find things, and maybe sometimes try to sort of
absolutely. Absolutely.
Show them to have flaws.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I think this is in anything. If someone wants to do the incorrect thing or the wrong thing, they can find an infinite amount of reasons or excuses or ways to.
Yes. So after this discussion, Allah created Adam.
Yeah.
And then after he created Adam, he asked all the angels to bow down to Adam. So it wasn't bowing down to Adam in terms of, Adam being a god or something. But it was just bowing out of respect, I guess.
Yes.
Probably similar to the Japanese kind of bowing, It was that kind of a prostration.
Yeah.
But then the jinn, the shaitan, the devil, the Lucifer, he did not bow down. Okay, and he said, "You've created him from dust. I am from fire." This is where the arrogance should have kicked in. And this was the beginning of the story of man in terms of after the creation.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very interesting because this is one of the core concepts of the difference between Satan and Adam, and I think arrogance is one of the reasons.
So this is very interesting in terms of Satan disobeyed Allah, right?
Yes.
And subsequently, when Allah cursed him and said, you can go ahead and do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Adam, he said, be careful from this person.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful from the shaitan because he will turn you out of heaven.
Yes.
And I've given you everything. And you can have whatever you want, just don't go to this specific tree.
Okay.
Correct? And then the shaitan came and whispered to him and, tried to tell him that this is, if you want to stay here forever and be immortal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then go, if you eat from this tree, you will be immortal.
So that was, if the devil is giving this to understand Adam this motivation that he will become immortal, that means that he was immortal in in heaven at that time.
Correct.
And
It is
and
possible.
he is aware of that.
It is possible. So you're right. And this is very interesting. So the shaitan had to seduce him from something that wasn't there.
Yeah.
It could mean that because in heaven, apparently, he's got everything.
Yeah.
Right? He's already in Jannah.
Yeah.
Right? And although the scholars slightly disagree on, because Jannah actually is translated as
Guidance.
a garden. Right? So scholars have sort of disagreed in terms of the Jannah that Adam was in. Is it the actual Jannah where we'll go to? Or was it a different Jannah? But I think it's sort of irrelevant. I don't think it's a big deal in terms of how you look at it one way or another. I am tempted to believe it's probably the same Jannah that we'll go back to. But anyways, so Adam was already there in Jannah and he had everything. Right? So the shaitan had to seduce him with something that wasn't there. And I think this is already in this story. We're beginning to see the human psychology.
Yes.
Right? The fact that a human being will feel vulnerable or will feel that he may lose something, right? Which interestingly, as we go along, read in the Quran, Allah sort of addresses that in a very convincing and in a separate way. Is because when you start believing, then a lot of your worries are gone.
Yes.
Because you sort of, you leave all of that to your belief in God.
Yeah.
And you're okay with it.
Yes.
And so the shaitan came back and seduced him, saying, if you want to be immortal,
yeah,
you can eat from this tree. Okay. And so Adam, alayhi salam, ended up doing the thing that he was forbidden.
Okay.
So coming towards the end of this specific story, the very fundamental lesson for all of us is that both Adam and the Satan disobeyed God. Okay. Right? The difference between the two was that when God asked Satan, why did you not do this? He started coming up with all kinds of reasons. He didn't say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Adam, when he disobeyed God, as soon as he realized I've done something wrong, he accepted his fault. So that, interestingly, is the defining element of life itself. So from that point of view, you can say, there's two kinds of people in this world.
Yes.
Or within a person's own life, he may be in two kinds of phases.
Yes.
Throughout his life.
Absolutely.
So you're either accepting your faults.
Absolutely.
Or you're not. So when you're not accepting your faults, that is where all the wrong and bad things begin to happen. Right? When you're accepting your faults, you've switched on to a path of honesty and purity.
Yes.
You may have fallen into evil.
Yes.
You may have done a lot of wrong things. But as soon as you've accepted your flaws
absolutely.
in front of God,
yes,
you're on the right track.
Absolutely. And that's what they normally say, that the first step to improve is to acknowledge or to accept your fault or your mistake or whatever it is. So you're absolutely correct.
And this is where, we'll probably close on this. And this is where there are some people, actually there are a lot of people who think that, accepting your fault is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
It's completely wrong.
Yeah,
it's a sign
absolutely.
of strength.
Absolutely.
Accepting your fault requires courage.
Absolutely. It can be very difficult to...
Right? It can be very difficult. So this is actually a sign of courage.
Yes.
And when we talk about leadership, one of the qualities of a good leader is if he's done something wrong, he will not think twice before accepting that this is wrong.
Yeah.
Because that requires cowardice.
Yeah.
And that means he's not vulnerable.
Yeah.
So people who will keep on giving excuses for things and not accept their faults are typically on the weaker side.
Yep.
Okay. And because there's deficiency there, there's lacking there,
yeah,
to cover it up,
yeah,
they will pretend as if they've done nothing wrong. And that is sort of the beginning of a lot of bad things. So I guess we'll end it here and we'll continue tomorrow.